What's up, sane people? Welcome to the CoinGeek Weekly Livestream. I love Shepard here just said that on the intro, and I'm like, you know what? That's what we're going. That's my audience needs a nickname, and it's not going to be like the Wookertopians or the CoinGeek loyalists or any of that. We're just going with sane people. So thank you, sane people, for tuning in. That's right. We have 23 people watching live at the moment. That's all the sane people on Earth. Good on you. If you're here, you've made the cut. Everybody else, get them out of here. Hi, everyone. I'm Kurt Wuckert Jr., and this is the CoinGeek Weekly live stream. I've just alienated everyone who's not watching. So don't even bother. Don't even like, subscribe, or hit the alert bell. It doesn't matter. You know what? We want fewer people. We want the best possible little audience, and that's it. So let's make that happen. I've been fired. All right, everybody. So it's Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I need to apologize to my sponsors and remind you to go ahead and use Rock Wallet, the #1 all non-custodial wallet. Yes, you have BIP39 access to your seed phrase, which means those are your coins. It's your Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, Ethereum, USDC, and USDT CBDC, and the new money stablecoin, only available on BSV and Ethereum. But also, it's a really good time to be using on BSV because, just like your Tesla, it uses no gas, and that's real popular lately, I'm hearing. So that's what we're going with. Also, thank you to the Otherworldly TCG folks for donating every single week to the comment of the week. So if you come up with, and this is one of the best opportunities because it's an Ask Me Anything show today. So make a good question, comment, blessing, curse, and gripe, or grope, and you could win the comment of the day, courtesy of the fine folks over at Otherworldly TCG, who are probably watching live at Shreddy's Tacos. So enjoy, everybody. Good to see you. Send me an horchata, please. So everybody, good to have you here. And like I said, it is an Ask Me Anything show. I'm going to need you to fill in the troll box, which I might be a mirror vision, which means it's over here, but I don't actually know. So for me, it's over here. But if you could go ahead and just ask anything you want, primarily about, the Bitcoin ecosystem, the blockchain ecosystem. We can talk a little bit politics, religion, fitness, military history, whatever you want. Like we can go into some things. I won't go super far down on the rabbit holes, but I do like to go just a little bit when I get the opportunity. But you got to lead it. I'm not just going to take us to hey, let's talk about, Watership Down or whatever. It's a rabbit hole joke for all the literate people here, which we have the sane people. Now we have 67 people. So both the sane people and the literate people have showed up for the show. Oh, and I've hit my microphone. So really, really good to have you, everybody. Before we cut to our ad, I want to remind everybody, please check my pinned post on X. I wrote an article today. Well, I wrote it over the last couple of days, but it published today about the power of AI or LLMs or whatever you want to call them in your dev stack. So, are you a developer? The answer might be changing right before your eyes. So, if you have any conceptualization, if you know what you want, why you want it, and what you want it to look like, how you want it to operate, that might be the only thing that you need to become a vibe coder, everybody. That's right. Vibe coding is the new fun way to create applications from the nether. Now, you will need subscriptions to things like Claude and some of these other organizational tools. But here's the thing. You can have ChatGPT, which a lot of people have a subscription to, or if you're a premium user on X, you can use Grok. Grok Maxwell, I'm calling it now, if you've seen any of my arguments with it over on X the last couple of days about BSV versus BTC. But you can use any of those tools to help you get yourself set up to become a vibe coder. So if you read my article, I run through the basic process. It's not exhaustive. It's high level. It's meant to be a little bit fun, a little bit funny, but also the information in it really can get you about 90% down the path of becoming a vibe coder and then launching your app using the Bitcoin SV tool stack, including the Go SDK, the TypeScript SDK, the wallet toolbox, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So please read my article and learn to vibe code. We are going to be the AI first, AI forward blockchain for development. And I think it's going to be pretty cool. So I think you can do it. I believe in you, everybody. So I am going to take a breather. You are going to come up with the most engaging, enthralling, enticing questions that we have ever had on an Ask Me Anything episode of the CoinGeek Weekly live stream during the 30 to 45 seconds while I wet my whistle. And man, I have already screwed this up. And then we're going to come back and we're going to answer your questions. So everybody, you keep being you. I'm going to keep being me. We're going to play that ad and we will be right back. And we're back, everybody. That's right. Kurt Wuckert Jr. Let's start bringing up the questions. Actually, he did it. I see it. It's already on screen. We're gonna do the questions. They're gonna flow here. It's a new overlay from StreamYard. Thank you. Thank you to StreamYard, who didn't sponsor the show, but probably should. My tin cup. They took away my tin cup. Please give me a cup and sponsor the show, StreamYard. That'd be great. All right, let's start bringing up some questions, Mr. Producer. Oh, I love to vibe code, but honestly, vibe coding BSV apps is still pretty effing hard. How can we make it more accessible? Ruth, I'm so glad you asked. So here's a first step. You need to pick what development stack that you want it to use. So one of the things that these tools are not great at is making the same kind of assumptions that you are going to have. They're going to have a predisposition toward things like Ethereum, which is a very different programming environment than BSV or any other UTXO-based development stack. Therefore, you need to explain to it exactly what tools it's using from top to bottom. So I would recommend, because this is what I do, you give it the context of the docs over at bitcoinschema.org, scrypt.io, use JungleBus for data acquisition from the blockchain. The OneSat ordinals indexer is access to token data and all those other things. Pre-program it to also be using the Go or TypeScript SDKs, and then also the wallet toolbox, or if you want to use like the Handcash SDK or Yours Wallet or whatever else, like you pick your wallet stack for doing that kind of deployment, but you get to tell it all those basic things and tell your application, tell Claude or whatever you're using, that it's not allowed to deviate. And if it wants to deviate, it needs to explain to you why and where it wants to go and whatever. And then it will give you the context on why you tell it like, no, we're going this direction instead. So that's your first basic step, but I probably shouldn't announce yet, but it's going to be in 2 or 3 weeks. Okay. So we have a few announcements of a few guests coming up. We usually kind of have a rolling schedule for the next 2 or 3 weeks, like who our guests are going to be. But I have someone coming on who is building a whole bunch of BSV specific tooling, including an API to an MCP server, which for anybody that knows what that's all about, it is basically pre-built agent bots that are pre-programmed AI staff members, essentially, that have very specific tooling that you can then outsource that to. So then you can tell Claude, hey, only access these quote-unquote devs, but each dev is a robot. And then it gets really, really exciting that way. So we're going to have that guest, the secret guest. That's right. Please hashtag secret guest. Actually, no, hashtags are now our shadow banned on X. So do not hashtag, no secret guest. But the secret guest is going to be on and start to explain with a little more depth some of the ways to do this. I shouldn't be the one to explain more than the high level, so I can give you the high level stuff, and then we're going to bring in Gopher to explain what happens underground, and it's going to be a really good time. Oh, good, my landscapers are here to make a bunch of noise outside, so that's fun too. Okay, let's next question, please. Let's keep them rattling. Thank you for the question, Ruth. Good to hear from you. What do you think about Trump buying $2 billion in BTC? So I saw this headline go by. I haven't audited this, but I probably don't have to. Just like Michael Saylor and Jack Mallers and some of these other guys, okay? they all let you know. So you got Saylor, who's like, yeah, man, we bought again. We're going to keep buying. We're going to buy forever because the price is going to go up forever. What do you mean? It's the best money in the whole world. As he's sitting there grinding his teeth and, talking at you through yesterday's lunch, still stuck up in there. But anyways, he likes to claim that MicroStrategy is always buying. We buy only. And he's been called out more than once now by a few significant players. Like, hey, where are you keeping these coins? Like, who's your custodian? Where is this stuff happening? Because, as you know, Bitcoin, any variation of it, is pretty easy to track on chain. And when somebody like Saylor, who has like 1 million coins plus, like that should be pretty easy to figure out. Like, okay, every time Michael Saylor says he's buying 100,000 more BTC, like where are those movements happening on chain? And you don't see it happen. And so it begs the question: is he buying like derivatives? Is he buying promissory notes? Is he like what's happening, right? So we don't really know what's happening. Where are those coins going? If he's really spending billions and billions of dollars on BTC, why is the price responding more to that than it has been? Same thing with Donald Trump. Did he say where it's going? Does he give an attestation of address, or is this just like I'll tell you the same thing? Like, all right, everybody, you heard it here. Kurt Wuckert Jr. just bought $10 billion worth of BTC. I just beat Donald Trump by 5x. Prove I didn't. So, and this is the problem with these kind of attestations. It's a promise, and we don't know where it's coming from. Also, there's a whole bunch of other, like, is Bitcoin designed to be a treasury asset? Yeah, maybe that is one of its properties. Probably shouldn't be its primary property, but that's what everybody's treating it like. And all these other things. So ultimately, Donald Trump, he's going to do what he wants. He's going to call it a victory. He's going to gaslight you into saying, prove that that's what I said I was going to do, or what I wasn't going to do. Was I going to do it? Did I say I was going to do it? I didn't think I said I was going to do it. Did you say we're going to do it? Like, it's just like, so I don't know. Anything Donald Trump says is A, super entertaining, but B, should be taken with the biggest possible grain of salt that you can find. So that's where we're at. Next question, please. Thank you for the question, Mr. Belinsky. Next one, please. Talk to me about Trump and XRP. Yeah, here we go. So XRP just passed McDonald's in total market cap. Okay, so McDonald's, one of the most storied corporations in the history of the United States, has been supplanted by XRP, an asset that is based on 15 years of promises, none of which have been fulfilled at all, except for the fact that Brad Garlinghouse will get a nice new suit every time he has to testify in front of Congress. And that's about it. XRP is not scalable, not programmable, and basically breaks every promise it's ever made. It was like, hey, we're going to replace MoneyGram. No, actually, we're going to buy MoneyGram. And then we're going to quietly sell MoneyGram because we couldn't do anything with MoneyGram because our tech stack doesn't work. So XRP, probably the best meme in the blockchain space of the last 12 years. Like, it literally doesn't do anything, but it has millions of rabid people that are just, like, convinced, despite hundreds of promises that have been broken, that, like, oh man, did you hear, man? Santander's using it for doing this, and Bank of America's using it for this, and Citigroup's doing this over there, and AXA's doing like Bank of London. Did you hear Lloyd's of London? Like, none of it ever happens, ever, and people just keep talking about it like it's the new big thing, such that it continues to pump. And XRP, which has never fed me a single burger in my entire life, has just passed up McDonald's in global market cap. So I don't know, man. Maybe I'm the crazy one. Mr. Belinsky, does that mean the government now holds BSV2? How did that work? You mentioned something like that in the past. Probably not. Here's why. The original SBR, the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve held by the U.S. federal government, was made by acquiring coins that had been confiscated prior to 2017. So primarily from the Silk Road, which got taken down in 2014, 2014, if I recall, but the confiscation of coins and all that might have legally occurred in 2015 or something. But either way, any coins held from before the split that have not moved since the split will contain BTC, BCH, BSV, as well as a few other things like Bitcoin Gold and probably 50 other coins that don't even actually exist anymore. But in that situation, I believe it was 70,000 coins or something like 70,000 coins. And so that is BCH and BSV contained with the BTC. So the US federal government has about 70,000 BSV on its balance sheet, part of the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Cool. I should also point out that the Trump acquisition is to his private corporation. This is not federal government stuff, despite the fact that it's a little bit hard to separate, like, when is the U.S. government doing something versus just Donald arbitrarily saying, hey, this is where the world's going. But Mr. President Trump, private citizen, and actually not even probably, but probably president of a corporation that is also of the same name, acquired this $2 billion of BTC, allegedly, because there's not a public attestation of it that we can verify. But that's probably just BTC bought from off the market. So he, in all likelihood, bought it from Coinbase or probably one of their background liquidity people, which would be like Cumberland Mining or BlockFills or any of these other infrastructure companies that sort of stream liquidity. But probably just a big OTC desk and probably just BTC. But can't verify because he didn't give us the tools to do that. So it's going to be another one of those, trust me, bro. Poppy, already I like this question. What are your thoughts on Reggie Middleton speaking on Lightning Network infringing on N-chain patents? Kind of feels like patents are kind of held as a carrot in front of us. Indeed. So two things. I really like Reggie. Reggie is a very forward-thinking money man. He predicted the global, what do they call it? The global financing crisis, GFC, I think is what they call it. The housing collapse of 2008, and he called it a year or two early. Was very, very vocal about it. Explained why, and then he bore it out. He's absolutely right. Now, he was the founder of a project called Veritasium, the Veri token, claims to hold the patents on the invention of DeFi, decentralized finance. That may be true. I'm not a patent attorney. He seems to have the first patent application on those couple of things, but totally outside of my pay grade to comment on whether he's the guy that has front run everybody on this concept. But he acknowledges that the largest patent portfolio in the blockchain space is held by N-chain. And he has gone on the record multiple times and in pretty great detail that N-chain is the single most undervalued company in the blockchain space because of the value of those patents. So he is a patent expert. He has read through a large chunk of N-chain's patents and said unequivocally, everybody's underestimating this company. And so that's his opinion. So he retweeted me. I said something about how Lightning Network is essentially fake news. And I'll take a short tangent. My post was essentially that the people that hijack Bitcoin, the small blockers, cabal, have told you that an unconfirmed Bitcoin payment is fundamentally dangerous because it could get double spent and you can't trust it, despite the fact that there have been billions of unconfirmed transactions that later became confirmed, and the percentage rate of failure or double spend is in the 0.0001, or maybe even more. It was more zeros. It is some just infinitesimally small fraction of a single percentage point that have ever been reversed or double spent on any blockchain, despite billions of transactions. So we're talking about quite possibly the most reliable transaction method in the history of all transaction methods. And this small group of small blockers are like, too dangerous, totally unmitigated risk. We need to engineer a solution that is going to fix this problem. And they gave us Lightning Network, which for a decade had a greater than 50% failure rate. For a decade. And they want us to believe they are the most brilliant engineers in the history of all blockchain. Okay. So we are talking about the most unreliable payment protocol ever invented. And the people that invented that criticizing the people who invented the most reliable payment protocol ever invented. And I'm just illustrating how insane this is. And then Reggie goes on and gives me the alley-oop. It's literally like I just shot the perfect shot, and Reggie from like half court flying through the air to catch the ball and dunk it on. Yeah, and by the way, Lightning Network also violates various N-chain patents and all this other stuff. So Reggie is super funny and super smart, and I really appreciated the fact that he doubled down and made us both look like champs on that post. So thank you, Reggie, and thanks for the question. It's pretty funny stuff, and as far as my expertise goes, it appears to be true. Do you have any insight on Tokenovate business model? How could they benefit from these laws like Genius and Clarity Acts? So I don't have any deep insights. Their public business model is fantastic, essentially speeding up the kind of business that you would be doing, like NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, and then various interbank settlement related. So kind of your, hey, I wear a suit to work because I'm in the finance industry. But big finance, big business. And Tokenovate seeks to bring that business to the blockchain in such a way that it is made a lot more efficient, transparent, et cetera, et cetera. This is good in regards to the Genius and Clarity Acts, because the Genius and Clarity Acts are demanding a whole lot more stringent regulation on reporting requirements. And that reporting includes, proof of funds, third-party attestation, and a whole bunch of things, such that even Tether, just the most beloved people in the blockchain space, have had to say, looks like we're going to have to tighten up the ship a little bit. We're going to have to figure out our collateral situation in order to comply with, I think it was the Genius Act, but not the Clarity Act, because the Clarity Act is a little more about blockchains themselves, but the Genius Act applies more specifically to tokens. My favorite thing about Tokenovate is actually that Richard Baker is involved, and Richard is, in my opinion, just one of the most professional, classy gentlemen in the whole space, and really good product to make TradFi more efficient, more transparent, etc. So, big fan. Tokenovate is a really cool company, and Richard is one of my favorite people. So, bullish on Tokenovate, and also just hoping for the best because I really like those people. Next question, please. Ruth, can you give us an elevator pitch for what Mint Blue do? I don't think I ever got a handle on it, and I'd like to know. Mint Blue is, think of them as a consulting company that creates software using the blockchain for the sake of making business and enterprise better. In a very basic sense, they're actually, you could probably take 90% of N-Chain's pitch deck and apply it to Mint Blue, except Mint Blue is probably 6 to 12 guys instead of 100 to 300, depending on the era we're talking about over at N-Chain. Except for the fact that with 6 to 12 guys, the Mint Blue people have successfully onboarded a federal government in the EU to help streamline their taxes via tokenization, and they also have a number of other clients that basically in like IoT tracking, big commercial stuff. So they create toolkits. They have a platform to allow companies to track various data via tokens on the blockchain. And I think if you pay them, they will also just kind of build whatever you want, as long as you're focused on the verticals that their company is focused on. But some of the coolest people, I love the Mint Blue guys. I don't think they get nearly enough credit for everything that they do, especially given the fact that the BSV people talk about like, hey, like it's so important to have enterprise and government clients, and Mint Blue, as far as I'm aware, is the only one that has actual enterprise and government clients right now that are putting transactions on chain. So, 100% endorsement on Mint Blue. Hope that helps. What the heck is going on with Terranode? Terranode is very near public release. I can't, unfortunately, dox details, but I will give you another hint. So we have a guest who is deeply in the know, who is scheduled for the next few weeks. I can't tell you exactly who or exactly when, but we're pretty pumped to have said person on the show in the very near future to discuss the details, because it is coming soon. From a development standpoint and a testing standpoint, Gorilla Pool has run the most recent iteration, and some of the interesting things that have happened, like some changes to the way that database, basically the UTXO set and timing on how long the database stays, has created other opportunities to do other things, and there's lots of little things going on for like, oh, okay, so some of this bug testing that delayed the release, like what was that, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, has borne out. Like, oh, here's a bug. We discovered another interesting bug, and that's been worked out. Now it's back in testing for some of that cool stuff. But I don't want to get too in the weeds on Terranode. Not that I'm incapable. I just don't know that it's necessarily good media. But I can tell you that it is coming soon, which, sorry, has been a little bit of an abused phrase in the BSV space, but it is indeed coming soon, and we're really excited about it as people who have had the opportunity to run it. nChain's website only has a contact us page now. Are they still in business? So I have no inside view on nChain. I don't speak for them. I don't know. Certainly nobody is reaching out to me to say, hey, Kurt, here's your update on nChain. But I do know people who work there, and I have like a social relationship with them, and they're still working. I think, just based on kind of the stuff that's happened over the last 18-ish months, I think they're, essentially retooling, reposturing, and saying, okay, what is nChain going to look like over the next 5 years? Because its first 10 years were very much defined by a very specific business strategy. And I think that's basically being calibrated for the new era. But again, this is my speculation on it. I am unfortunately unaware of the inner workings of nChain or whatever they're called. So next one, please. Is Web3 IPv6 possible without a mature blockchain? I guess it depends what you mean by mature. I know the Clarity Act has a lot to say about the definition of the word mature as it pertains to blockchains, including that it is sufficiently decentralized by all these various compliance metrics. And it's kind of a lot of lawyer talk, which I'm also probably not qualified to discuss in great detail. But essentially, if you can prove by these new pillars, and these new pillars really are probably going to be considered something to the effect of the blockchain Howey test going forward. So the Howey test is, I believe, what the FCC and FINRA use in order to figure out if something is a security or a security versus a commodity. And the security aspect of things is based on like the expectation of profit and like, what is the distribution of the equity and some of these other things. Well, the Clarity Act seeks to add necessary components to blockchains because they are frankly just a slightly different asset class, and they have some specifics that are unique to blockchain assets. And so that being said, if a blockchain is determined to be a mature blockchain, it demands that it is public, decentralized, and a bunch of other, it's like 5 other pillars. And so when that's the case, then something like your Web3 IPv6 related stuff, I think becomes easier. The reason for that is, not so much Web3, which is kind of an undefined, it's a murky concept, but IPv6 is a standardized internet protocol. In fact, that's what IP stands for, is Internet Protocol. But the way that IPv6 is standardized is by a totally separate group of standards makers, the IPv6 forum. And then they have to deal with like NIST compliance and all this stuff related to SOC 3 and all this other stuff. A bunch of jargon and hoo-ha from people who have titles like doctor in front of their names. And so if you have a mature blockchain that is set in stone and public and all these other things, it becomes very easy for an association like the IPv6 forum to then use that blockchain as part of their dev stack net stack, internet stack rather, and use that moving forward. As for Web3, it's super murky, undefined. There is no Web3 defining body or anything, at least not that I'm aware of, or doesn't exist yet, but that could change in the near future as well. So hopefully I answered that question, but some of the details are are murky because a lot of that is in flux. So there's not a very clear and deliberate answer, just kind of a lot of conflicting opinions at the moment. What's the relationship between small blockers and communism? Thank you, Brett. This is going to be the rest of the show. Is this something they're intentionally disguising, or do they not understand the connection below the surface? I think it's both and. I think there are some small blockers that are very clearly students of the sort of Saul Alinsky, or let me think, some of these other folks. Even your what's his name? Anyways, let's not have me think of Russian names live on the air that I'm going to mess up. But no, so Saul Alinsky is a good one though. So Saul Alinsky is primarily an American communist rabble rouser. He wrote a book called Rules for Radicals. Trotsky, thank you, Mr. Producer. Mr. Producer has reminded me, Trotsky was another really, really good one who explained a lot the way to coordinate movements. So how do you gear people up? How do you arm them for the permanent revolution? And a lot of that stuff is related to your basic populist strategy. Actually, you see Trump use some of the same kind of rhetoric in order to make the everyman, the regular person, the little guy feel like they have been oppressed by some nebulous other, and therefore hey, we're all in this class war together. And I see small blockers utilize a lot of that against the. Well, just think about this. Think about your classical BTC person versus your classical communist. Like, who are the villains, right? Big banks, big government, big tech, and those kind of things. And so with those, that group of common enemies, they were able to put together what I like to think of as like a general strike, like a union general strike, in that like with UASF, that the little guy needs to be able to validate all transactions. And so they kind of weaponize we need to make sure the economy, the BTC economy, the Bitcoin economy at the time, never gets too competitive for the little guy to be able to run his own node. And like, your node is the most important part of the network. And, these kind of things. So there's lots of like those little rhetorical points that get tangled up in this conversation about what it means to be a Bitcoiner. And for small blockers, it's lots of little things that aren't exactly one-to-one, but they make a lot of rhyming and echoing with communist propaganda about who should run the network, who's in control, what is the power structure, what is the governance? And the governance is, it's all of us, it's everyone. There is no hierarchy. It's, social consensus determines what Bitcoin is. So it's very Hegelian, which Hegelianism is the predicate philosophy that underlies dialectical materialism, and dialectical materialism is the underlying philosophy that informs communism. And so they are related in a lot of ways. The problem is, it's just like in the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was only communist in rhetoric, but it was pretty capitalist in practice, because if you were one of the people in power, you were doing underhanded deals with the Rockefellers or whoever else. Like, it's a people's revolution, but also, you can go drill on this land over here and just make sure that the money filters its way toward me, and we'll make sure it all kind of comes out in the wash. So there is lots of that. Then, so you get all that social stuff that is, at the planning level. So I think there are some people that very clearly are educated on that rabble rousing that comes from like a hard left-wing background. Secondarily, you have the people that have just kind of come into the Bitcoin space, and they hear that rhetoric and think it sounds awesome, because they think it's like, hey man, the way that we resist is that we have to have lots of nodes and everybody's got to be part of infrastructure and like all these other things. And like, they're not overtly communists, but they kind of become, they're like your sort of 80 IQ, which a lot of them put in their handles, by the way. Like, hey, I'm an 80 IQ Bitcoiner. And it's just like, man, just, I don't know, stay dumb, stack sats. And so there's like the sort of soft followers. They're like the carts. So there's like the engine on the front of the train that are like educated, understand why they're communists. And then there's all the rest of them that just are kind of along for the ride by de facto. So a little different, but good question. Thank you, Brett. BTC future fake gold standard. Then they start moving toward fractional reserves through second layers. Yes. So this is the problem with, in my opinion, using any hard asset as foundationally as a reserve asset. Because if it is a reserve asset, then it only sits in one spot. And if it only sits in one spot, then its value can only be used by derivative. So think Isle of Yap. So if you look at the rye stones or ray stones, if you're from the Midwest like me, and you say, "Hey man, you got any of them ray stones?" But the Isle of Yap was a Pacific island where they would have these carved stones that just kind of look like a big donut. And based on the size and weight and beauty of said stone, you had a certain amount of credit on the island. And so your credit was derivative from the value of your stone. And it didn't matter if the stone was on your island and everybody could see your stone, or some of these stones would sink in the ocean. Magic thumbs up. Some of those stones would sink in the ocean, but you still got to use the credit because it wasn't the stone that had the value. Its value is passed through to the credit system, to what's essentially the fiat derivative of that asset. And so if you do the same thing, we did the same thing with gold in this country. Like, okay, gold is hard to use, and so the banks will hold the gold and they'll issue you these credit notes, and these credit notes are redeemable for gold, but why would you ever redeem the gold? And so you have these dollars and whatever else. Well, if you do the same thing with BTC, and everybody decides, okay, BTC, it's too expensive for me to move, but I gotta pay with something, so what do I do? And you have custodians come in and say, we'll give you this way to pay. You never have to move your Bitcoin. You have to trust us to hold on to it because we're going to issue you this card. They're not going to give you cash, but they're going to give you some derivative credit asset. You're going to trust them as a custodian. And that's always how inflation starts. And so I don't see any way around that. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. So good question. Next one, please. Tell us the relationship between AI and blockchain. So there's no overt relationship with AI and blockchain, but I think blockchain is going to be one of the key things that makes AI actually useful, especially your public blockchain and your public AI. So something like ChatGPT is accessing the internet. It's accessing all kinds of databases all over the place in order to quote unquote think for you. Here's the problem. When your AI hallucinates something or comes up with sources that aren't real, or references an author or an app or a white paper or something that isn't actually real, the reason for that is that somewhere it received bad data and it thought that data was real and it fed it to you as if it was real. We've seen this with some of these AIs accessing weird Reddit forums where like it just can't come up with the context to understand that the entire subreddit is sarcasm. And because it doesn't understand that it's sarcasm, it just takes it at face value. This is part of the reason why so many public AIs become Nazis, which Grok did like 3 weeks ago. It turned itself into, I think it called itself Mecha Hitler by the end of the day. And the reason is it doesn't have the ability to understand when, large groups of people are making a conversation that is at least a little bit sarcastic or has some context about, social commentary or a meme where the culture understands, okay, this is half kidding and, maybe half illuminating some social or political issue, but it's also meant to be half funny. And the AI can't parse the difference between those things. And so it starts to take on opinions that it thinks are valid without understanding the context. So it's a little bit like if you moved to a foreign country and you're pretty good at the language, but you're not a native speaker, and then they use colloquialisms that are based on something that happened in the country 100 years ago, and you don't know that history. So you don't understand, like, where does that phrase come from? Why is it funny? What is what's actually happening there? And so to get back to the question, how do AI and blockchain work together? Have blockchain certification, proof of work validated truths. So have that data be vetted, approved, perhaps upvoted by locking value on those things, or by proof of work, or by some process by which vetted people have like some editorial control over the nature of the data. And you start to be able to incentivize. You have to create the incentives to make sure that the AI understands what real data, like, hey, this is medical data, or this is legal history versus this is fan fiction, created by, LGBTQI plus vampire fans that are going to talk about, something about, that they've got this whole lore over here that is a huge part of their life. And the AI has to understand that, hey, this is a niche community, and I can't take their opinion as, objective truth, for example. Like, they'd have to understand the context of all those things. So blockchain as a data purification tool is going to be increasingly important as AI becomes an increasingly used tool. On and off ramps for BSV. I don't know what MCC 5815 is, but because it's Casey asking, I'm guessing it's a legal standard that I haven't heard of yet. So Casey, maybe clarify, because I'm now curious. On and off ramps. So if you're not American or British, you kind of have a lot of options. You can use like lots of Asian exchanges. KuCoin works really well for a lot of people. Now for Americans, I don't think you're necessarily allowed to use KuCoin. So you'd have to use a VPN and get a little crafty. But I would never recommend you do that. I would never recommend that you go buy a VPN and set yourself up in a nation that doesn't have those kind of KYC requirements, and then set up an account at KuCoin and make all that happen for yourself. But if you're an American or UK, EU, Orange Gateway like absolutely kicks ass. I've used it myself. It works really, really well. You can be in and out in 2 minutes, and it's like fantastic. And then also Rock Wallet. So Rock Wallet works a little bit more like an OTC desk in the app. So you can do the app easily for anything under $5,000, but it's a certain amount per day based on, again, KYC AML laws. But if you're a larger client, if you want to buy like 10 grand, do 100 grand, or like, hey, I'd like to buy 10 million a week, make a deal with Rock Wallet OTC. And I think that's probably your best bet in the US. So thanks for the question though, Casey. And let me know what that MCC, what was it, 5518 or whatever? So let me know what that is. Hi, Jack. What happened to Centby? So I can tell you what I don't know, and then I will tell you what I don't know. What I do know is that their node is out of sync. And that's it. That's all I know about it. What I don't know is why it's out of sync and why their customer service line doesn't respond to anybody, or why Lorian hasn't responded to anybody. And I will tell you right now that the whole thing has me as concerned as it does anybody else for two reasons. The first reason is really unfortunate. Centby was a nice tool, and I hope they're just having a struggle and they'll be back and everything will be fine for the next decade. But also, Lorian is one of the coolest guys I have ever met in the Bitcoin space. Like, he is a straight shooter and an honest actor and a hard worker, and frankly, just really kind and authentic and genuine. And there's a part of me that is worried that he is in, like, maybe not just financial woes, but might actually be in some kind of physical trouble or something, because I can't get a hold of him and I'm concerned. So Lorian, if you're out there, I'm not calling you out. I am concerned as a friend and an ally here, and I really hope to hear from you soon. And I really hope you don't hear all my landscapers over my voice. So maybe, Mr. Producer, you can let me know how bad that is. Also, Oliver Smith. What role does BSV play in enabling lawful, transparent enterprise solutions? So BSV in particular, sorry, so the noise may not be distracting you, but it is distracting me, so I apologize. The role that any blockchain can play in such a thing is actually the same as any other blockchain, except for one small detail, is that BSV is scalable, which therefore makes it useful regardless of the size of the data, and cheap to access regardless of the size of the data. And that's a very important distinction. But what every blockchain can offer to enabling lawful, transparent enterprise solutions is the fact that it's a public database where the data is hashed, and you can just search via that hash. And then with that hash, you can see, okay, here is the timestamp of when important thing happened. And therefore, enterprise solution, like my audited logs, or the fact that, I have to comply with some tax policy or something, that's just one way to do it. It is a triple entry accounting system, if it is a proof of work blockchain anyways. And therefore it is useful in enterprise because it helps compliance with things that require a third-party audit and some of these other things. So BSV is only superlative in the fact that you can do more of it for less money than on any other database, distributed public database. That's BSV's unique opportunity, is it can be bigger than a niche use case. It can be a global use case. And that's what makes that special on that point. Next question, please. How can BSV projects start using MCC 5815 on-ramps like CoinFlow, Wirt, or Crossmint instead of 6051? It's critical for mainstream adoption. 6051 gets flagged by banks. This is a little bit out of my wheelhouse. So I don't know. I don't know the distinctions here. Oh, also, just getting a comms in. Can we turn down the background music just a little bit? I have received notification that it is a little bit distracting. Next question, please. People want to hear me breathe. Next question. Anybody? Hello, Mr. Producer. How do you see Trump's administration shaping blockchain regulation in the U.S.? Big mixed bag. I think one of the best things that has happened is the regulations related to mining in the U.S. And its relation to the energy industry. I think mining and the energy industry are going to get closer and closer together until they essentially turn into the same thing. And I think that is a generally good thing for both industries. However, with everything else going on, I almost could not be more bearish and critical of the fact that Howard Lutnick has the ear of the president on so many issues, because he is the primary custodian of Tether's real assets, I guess is probably the right way to put it, like their actual dollar store of dollars, which is what their business model always said that it was, but we know now that it absolutely is not. And then they use, banks in the Bahamas and other weird jurisdictions in order to do the other side of their business, which in my opinion is probably the largest money laundering operation in the history of the world, based on my research of it and in my opinion. And I would guess that Lutnick is, he's the guy that makes everything look a-okay, because Cantor, put its signature of approval on it. But we know for a fact they're doing it. They have been convicted of doing very shady things with their books, and it's a real problem. And so the fact that Lutnick is one of the guys that is helping Trump lead policy from the Treasury Department about blockchain regulation really gives me pause and gives me a huge amount of concern. And then there's a lot of other little things. I really don't like almost any of the people that he's got whispering in his ear about crypto. And so, that's why we're seeing stuff like Solana meme coins and Trump buying BTC as a reserve asset and investing in mining operations that are focused on, small block subsidy mining and all these other things. Like, yes, it makes sense from a financial standpoint right now, especially if you're the kind of guy that wants donors from rich people or donations from rich people, which, the crypto people have gotten very, very rich very, very quickly and mostly by accident. And so that's a really good donor / voting block, but not good. I think I would argue it's probably a net bad outside of the stuff that we've seen in the energy side of the mining policy stuff. I guess the other good thing would be reduction of capital gains tax, especially on small payments. Like, that is also a net good, especially for research and development. So anybody doing business, for example, like Gorilla Pool does a lot of R&D, and we're doing lots of little transactions, and it would really suck to have to play with, keep a spreadsheet of, okay, so we sent this 10,000th of a penny and it was this amount profitable, and so we have to account for how much tax is owed on that. It just kind of sucks. And so it's good to see some of that has loosened up just for the sake of encouraging real development. We got about 10 minutes left, so let's bang through these. What does Bitcoin treasury mean? Hi, I'm going to put your Bitcoin over here in this pot and say that it's a treasury. kind of like we do with the gold in Fort Knox. It's alleged, it is unaudited. In fact, weren't we promised a Fort Knox edit? Is that ever going to happen? I bet they wrapped all the gold in the Epstein client lists, so we never have to see either one of them, right? I don't know. Unfortunately, I think a Bitcoin treasury is a bunch of nonsense. Like, Bitcoin was designed to allow every person to hold their own coins and use them in real life. And so to say that we need the federal government of all things to be a treasury custodian is like, just, gag me with a spoon kind of nonsense. And then we're seeing all these treasury companies, most of them by David Bailey from Bitcoin Magazine, by the way, seems to be on the board of like 90% of them. They're saying, hey, just buy our stock. Here's why they're doing it. People like to gamble. Gamblers want to buy stuff that is going to outperform other stuff they could buy. BTC would need to come up with like $15 trillion more to do another 10x move from where it is today. And instead, they are able to just simply buy stock in some company because it's a leverage play on BTC, and then, hope it goes to the moon. And if the economy looks the way that it's going to look, it's probably going to keep going on for a little while. And then when interest rates change and other stuff changes, everyone's going to get wrecked, and they're going to blame a bunch of people. A couple of guys are going to go to prison for it in 10 years. And we're all going to say, how did this happen? Cypher Solutions. I heard Trump is starting a mining business with his, I think the very technically, I believe it is Eric Trump's mining business. And if I recall, they're teaming up with Hut 8. That might be wrong. It might be Clean Spark. It's one of the publicly traded companies that does SHA-256 hashing in the US. But there is something like that going on. The details have been a little murky. So that's where we're at. Next one, please. Do you think the Senate will squeeze the CBDC through? It kind of looks like they want to. I think there were only 2 votes no. They were up all night debating this bill. In fact, I saw that it was the longest discussion and debate session of any bill that ever happened, and it's about this CBDC. So here's the thing. The U.S. federal government, the most important thing that keeps Americans safe under the umbrella of the most vicious military empire in the history of the world, is the fact that the U.S. government has the ability to inflate the currency and pay for, hey, we gotta bomb these guys again. Like, cool, here's $1 trillion. Like, that's really powerful tool when your goal is to scare the living daylights out of every other country to make sure that your people who work on your plantation continue paying taxes and saying USA A-OK. And so this whole Bitcoin experiment has been a huge threat to that being their permanent solution to controlling the universe. And so the compromise is okay, well, here, we'll make you really rich by doing nothing. Like, don't use that Bitcoin too much. And then we're going to learn these lessons with blockchain technology. And we're going to issue a CBDC because isn't it great? It's low cost and low friction and all this other stuff. But also, by the way, the cash that used to be in your pocket that we didn't necessarily know about, now it's in digital. And I can just say, cancel you, and you don't have any money. So I think they really want that power. I think we have essentially an authoritarian state, just an authoritarian state that wants to remind you to celebrate the holidays and eat a hot dog. But it is still an authoritarian state by almost any definition you can come up with, and they want to control your money. So I think they do want to push through a CBDC. It'll probably be pushed through with compromises that will make you want to gag, and most people won't pay attention because the average American reads at a 6th grade level, and they're really excited about the next season of The Bachelor. So why is BSV on only a very few exchange, but you can buy Dogecoin anywhere? For the same reason. BSV is the single most disruptive tool in the history of all finance. It is disruptive to payments. It is disruptive to big tech and big data. It is disruptive to big banking, credit, finance, and insurance, and underwriting, and public audit of all things. So it is a threat to all of the lobbies of CPAs and all kinds of other stuff. It is disruptive to tens, maybe hundreds of trillions of dollars in global value. Dogecoin is a funny meme coin on the internet that makes weird gamblers on the internet extra money every couple of years when it pumps again. So I think, that's our big challenge. We threaten too many powerful people at the same time, and our coalition is relatively small. Doesn't mean we can't win, but it means we need to acknowledge the fact that we have the most powerful group of enemies in the history of the world, and therefore we're going to get oppressed from every single angle. We're going to get oppressed by all of the blockchain industry that see us as a dangerous competitor, and we're going to get oppressed by the mainstream economy that sees us as a competitor. And so, yeah, that's why, like, anybody who can and who understands the power of BSV, they're going to do everything they can to jam us down with the biggest thumb they can find. Next question, please. Got a few minutes left. Might go a little long if necessary. Who do you think brought the 80,000? I have no idea. That whole situation is really weird. That Salomon Brothers thing, I thought was like a scam, and it turns out the Salomon Brothers have come back in business after being gone for a decade, and they are doing something that sounds quite a bit like the token recovery stuff that was talked about quite a bit in BSV a couple of years ago, essentially saying, hey, if these coins are abandoned, somebody can make a claim on them. If it's a public claim, then they have a certain amount of time to argue, and if nobody argues, then that company can legally claim them and try to turn them into their property by all kinds of legal methods, and we'll see how it goes. So I don't know but that whole thing, very, very fishy for a lot of reasons. Let's keep banging through these. What is Rare Pepe Club? Rare Pepe Club is awesome. Did I say it wrong? Rare Pepe Club. Alex always corrects me. He is a Latin American man, and I am from the Midwest, so everything is peppy to me, and it is Pepe because that's the right way to say it. But so it's a card, basically collector card version of the greatest meme in the history of maybe the internet and blockchain. But I don't know the website off the top of my head, but I did buy a few rare packs from our friend Crumbs, who's one of the loyal folks of the space. Big fan. I really like Crumbs a whole lot. And the art is beautiful. Like, the stuff is awesome. Is Shadowlay Vision real Bitcoin? No comment. Not saying anything about it. Never heard of it. Next one. We got a few. Let's rapid fire these, and then we'll give away some cards and do all that. What do you think about Bitcoin OS and Cardano teaming up? Typical. I mean, Hoskinson is one of the biggest scammers in the history of the world. I've seen it said that dumb people think that Charles Hoskinson is what smart people sound like. The Bitcoin OS people, I mean, it's a novel idea if you presume all the presumptions of BTC small blocker theory. It's just one more nonsense pile of things that just shouldn't be necessary at all. All of it should be done on one network, all on L1, and be awesome. Why not? How is BSV disruptive to insurance? The ability to lock value in a smart contract that has if this then that logic related to it. Your car should be a token. Everything about that car should be a token. Every time you do a thing to that car, your token should be updated so that the fundamental value of your car can be assessed at any time ever. And then the contract can stipulate who is the lien owner, who owns the title, where are these things. All of those can also be related and interrelated tokens. And if a thing happens, you can pay into an escrow that is related to your contract instead of paying the insurance company to do what it does. You can cut out the insurance industry entirely, and you can have directly with your bank and say, okay, let's lock all this up in these various smart contracts, cut out the middleman. It'll make it cheaper for everybody. I don't want to go into more detail than that. Let's keep going. I want to bang out a couple more here. Preach, yes, absolutely. Okay, let's take 2 seconds here. Will Gorilla Pool send me Virgin BSV? Maybe. We really don't want to. We're trying to stack those as part of our company treasury, which is our little nest egg. It's our little stack of bananas. But maybe, I don't know. Maybe if we get in a pinch. But I really, really want to hold on to those if we can. Okay, let's take the comment of the day, and we are going to take, I'm going to take my 30-second breather. We'll have some closing comments, and we will wrap this show up. All right, Cypher Solutions, please reach out to Real CoinGeek on X to claim your cards from Otherworldly TCG, the coolest company in the universe. Yeah. So do that, everybody. Yeah, I'm Kurt Wuckert Jr. I see some of these questions and comments and these other things. And a couple people ask me jiu-jitsu content. I am actually working on some jiu-jitsu content. Not a channel. I do not want a BJJ channel, but I want to do a little more like general, like here's Kurt's idea about thing X, Y, or Z. BJJ is one of them. I actually posted one to my Instagram yesterday. Yeah, it was last night. Super funny because it was like a really lame move that I thought, but that was the point. So anyways, I want to do more content on more things because I like a lot of stuff, but you know, my audience demands specificity. Excuse me, specificity and focus. And so I try to give you those things. So anyways, I'm Kurt Wuckert Jr. This has been the CoinGeek Weekly Livestream. I really genuinely appreciate the questions. These shows are actually my favorite, aside from the fact that I get pretty hoarse by the end of them. I like to do the question. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. It is super effective. It just looks like, what, is it that easy? But check me out on Instagram. You can see at Kurt Wuckert Jr. You can see the fancy, what was it? The fancy finishes on Murder Monday is what I branded it. But yeah. So anyways, I appreciate you, the audience who got to be my guest today. You made this show. You get at least 50% of the credit for everything that you loved about this show because you asked the questions. Otherwise, I'd just be talking about whatever I want to talk about. So hey, thank you, Brett. No, I really appreciate that too. I did put out that message the other day because I meant it. I was up late working and really just being grateful for the work that I get to do. It's an honor. Everybody, thank you again. Thank you to CoinGeek. Thank you to our sponsors, Rock Wallet, Otherworldly TCG, everybody that makes this happen. And remember, be good to each other because if we can't do that, then the rest of it is worthless. Anyways, Kurt Wuckert Jr. out. See you next week.